You're watching the Experience Comic Culture and Sales. Streaming live daily to Facebook, YouTube, Twitch, and Twitter.
2, 1.
I refuse to let you guys see my background anymore, which is weird. So now I got this foggy thing here. But we got a really awesome lineup of guests for you guys today on Talking Shop. And so sit back because we're about to bring them in. Welcome back to Talking Shop, folks. I am your host for today, Henri Compen. Normally, the show is run by either myself or Miss Jen King, and we try and bring you guys the hottest guests in the comic book industry who are releasing new books or have Kickstarters that are out there that you guys need to pay attention to, which is who our guests are today. So please join me in welcoming Trevor Mueller and Mr. Mark London. Gentlemen, how are you?
Good.
Great.
Awesome. All right.
Happy Monday.
Well, what's that?
Happy Monday.
Happy Monday.
Yeah,
yes.
definitely.
So here's what's really cool. Trevor and I literally live like 20 minutes from each other. We're yeah, if that. So, and Mark, you and I, you live like a couple states away from us. So we're all kind of close.
Well, with technology, I mean, it just brought people together, right? No matter where you are.
Totally. All right. Well, why don't we do this? One of you guys decide who's gonna, go first, and you guys can tell us a little bit about who you are.
Mm-hmm.
Trevor,
Right, go ahead.
Trevor, you go ahead. Trevor's going ahead.
I was gesturing to Mark, but so be it. Hi, I'm Trevor. I'm a comic book writer. I'm actually working with Mad Cave on a number of unannounced projects at the moment, but I'm doing a crowdfunding campaign for my second mature reader's graphic novel called Demon City. But I've written books for Mark Waid's Thrillbent website. I've got 2 Webtoon original series. I do a hodgepodge of different genres and work with artists from around the world to bring people the best possible stories that I can. So that's what I love to do.
Awesome. So Trevor, why don't you start off by telling us a little bit about Demon City, because I'm very interested to hear about your latest project, and I know everybody else is too. So go ahead and tell us about this.
Yeah, sure. So Demon City stems from my love of kind of the buddy cop action genre mixed with like urban fantasy and supernatural elements. The question that I had pitched to my artist to get him hooked on this was the tagline that we used for the series. Someone has murdered death, and now no one else can die. And so what do 2 detectives do when they literally are going to put themselves out of a job investigating the last homicide that will ever happen? And so it's got elements of, Bad Boys and Die Hard and Lethal Weapon in there, but also some of the supernatural stuff that you would find in a series like Hellboy or Bright or those types of series as well. And I work with an artist, Marco Perugini, who is an Italian artist. And wonderful kind of crime noir style to his work. Deep shadows, really, really good looking stuff. And then Shan Benyon is doing our colors on there, and they've worked together for a very long time, but it's the first time I've worked with either of them. Her color theory understanding is top notch, and just really, really makes the style pop on the page. You can see the preview pages in the Kickstarter campaign, obviously. And then Micah Myers is doing our letters, and I've worked with Micah for a number of years. And he's just a wonderful collaborator and a great person to work with. So for people who love kind of diehard action movies or who like supernatural urban fantasy stuff, this is probably the book for you. I'll also say that we're fully funded. We got funded within our first week of launching the campaign. We were only trying to raise $4,000 to pay for the printing of the book. The book is done. It's a 168-page deluxe hardcover edition, and it's going to be filled with the complete story that we have in there. And then we've got reward tiers on there where you can get drawn into the sequel that we will inevitably make. And you can be drawn in as a human or a demon, your choice. So lots of fun stuff to kind of do, again, for people who like those types of genres and this type of story.
That's awesome. We're going to jump back and forth between you guys so that we get kind of like a chance to, let everybody talk a little go on here. So, Mark, why don't you go ahead? Why don't you tell us about your campaign and what you got going on?
It's actually Matt Cave's first Kickstarter, and it's Battle Cats. It's what really kicked off, in a sense, our publisher. Back in the day, I mean, we were not even known at conventions or anywhere else. I mean, as Matt Cave, but we were the Battle Cats guys. So we're doing a Kickstarter. It collects all 4 volumes of Battle Cats. 3 volumes are the main story. 1 volume is basically just like back matter, but it also has the world map. It has character designs. It has like all the lore, everything. I mean, it's a freaking beast. And it's 500 pages, hardcover, absolute deluxe edition. And the reason why we decided to do it after all this time is that it coincided with Mad Cave's 10-year anniversary. So it was a great opportunity to actually just put it out there and be like, hey, listen, this is something that actually started our publisher, and we wanted to tap into Kickstarter realm, which is I mean, a lot of fans, passionate fans there, love comic books, and we were like, hey, why not? So we're very close with just funding the project. It's a marvelous piece of work. Don't take my word for it. Just go into the page and check it out yourselves. But yeah, it's our passion of love, and it's basically the roots of what started the publisher. So that's what Battle Cats the Kickstarter is.
That's awesome. So, Mark, I remember you when I think the first time we met was at WonderCon in 2017. Was it 2017 or 2018?
Yes,
a long time ago. And I remember you guys were the Battle Cats people. You had the background and everything. That was. So, I mean, obviously, you've had a lot of things have happened since that point. So, how does it feel now, having completed this huge body of work, and being able to look at it and be like, all right, I've been able to see it, and this is the full story, like everything's done after this. So, how does it feel having your entire vision completely realized and being able to put it out there like this?
Oh, it's definitely surreal, but I think rewarding at the same time. Of course, you're always kind of like afraid, especially because again, Mad Cave still an indie publisher. I think that we still have a lot of ground to cover, doing the rounds. I mean, well, Trevor is actually one of the people that is actually working for us, and everybody that he mentioned, I mean, is working for Mad Cave now. So I think that having people like Trevor, having other people like Micah working at Mad Cave, but us starting, I mean, with Battle Cats, it was, again, I wear 2 hats in this company because I'm a creator, but I'm also running the publisher in a sense with the wonderful team that we have put together at Mad Cave. So it's kind of like a mixed bag in a sense, because you're like putting 2 things, funneling it out, but which don't necessarily mean the same thing. It's like, okay, one is your create your own project and the other one is the publisher. So what's the correlation there? But at the end of the day, I just feel proud because it's like, first of all, that was the way that I intended to release Battle Cats out there to the masses. It was a beautiful hardcover, 3 volumes with amazing back matter. And but again, as an indie publisher starting out, I mean, you do have to start very, very slowly in a way that you do your thing. So you can't just go like all out. So after 10 years, I mean, I think it's humbling, rewarding, very scary, and hopefully people enjoy what we're putting out there with the whole Battle Cats package.
So Trevor, I'm gonna jump over to you now, because you and I are kind of like in a similar boat where we're much smaller than Mark is in terms of our market exposure, but we've been at this a while, and it's interesting. I have to say how everybody kind of comes at making comics in a different way. But you've released so many different projects, and particularly like recently, you've been really focused on making comics your full-time job. So how has the production process been for you? Because you've been dealing with similar stresses and all that. So how has this been for you so far with getting this book out?
Yeah, well, I think as a creator versus like as a publisher, my stresses are probably quite different, because I don't necessarily have to look at the market trends as much as I'm sure Mark is. And and all the sales data and those things. Like, yes, I pay attention to those when I'm at conventions and I see what titles on my table are moving and what are getting read and what people are asking about the next time I come back. For me, I find myself in an advantageous situation because I'm able to kind of focus on the variety. And my goal right now is to have something for everyone on my table. And that's why I've put together so much variety and diversity in terms of the titles that I'm putting out there, right? The Albert the Alien series is for young readers. I've got teen books that you can read again on Webtoons, as well as some other ones that I've made, like The Witches of Eastwick Boulevard. And then now my mature readers books with Los Ojos, which was funded earlier this summer, and now Demon City. And so I would say what I was going to say to Mark while he was talking, from humble beginnings right to greatness. And you guys have done a fantastic job in terms of diversifying the talent you work with, the offerings and the titles that you have, and those types of things, and have been able to kind of provide that variety that I strive to do as an independent person, while simultaneously, like, I get to juggle working with such incredible talents like your editorial team and those people as I'm working with those folks and trying to make sure that we're telling the best possible stories and adhering to that high standard that Paper Cuts and Mad Cave create for those particular titles. And I try to apply that same standard to my own independent books as well, just to make sure that the quality is there and that the professionalism is there, so people know what to expect from me, whether it's a book that they're crowdfunding with me or whether or not it's a book that they're picking up when I'm working with a publisher.
I love that you're putting it like that, Trevor, and really it means the world to me to hear you speak like that, because that's really what we've been trying to do at Mad Cave, especially again with our humbling beginnings. I mean, we basically started that. It was create our own projects little by little, trying to get your own publishing gig up and running, and then, well, one thing leads to another, and you're able to build different imprints, and people gravitate towards you, and you're able to work with the best talent out there. So again, thank you for your kind words.
Well, and if I can say thank you again real fast, because you guys also do the talent search as well. And I feel like that's a fantastic way for publishers to be able to pass the buck and look for that next generation of talent and help to build them up with the infrastructure that you guys have and teach them about the industry and how to do those top quality books and help them out with there. So again, thank you for doing that. There's very few publishers that do that today, and I'm so impressed whenever somebody does. So congratulations again on finding your next winners within that search. That was wonderful.
And honestly, that's just kind of piggybacking off of what Trevor's saying. It's very true, because I mean, it's like we've had a lot of independent publishers kind of rise up and fall over the last 5 years. And names won't be mentioned here, but I mean, it's a tough, it's a tough business. It's a very tough business, no matter what scale you're working at, because I think the advantage that I've always had is I've always been like sort of like a one-man act with how I've been able to do it. And the hard thing for me is how do I grow from there, whereas when, you have a bigger operation, more people coming in, it's like now you got more mouths to feed, and figuring out how to make that work and how to get that next thing going. It's challenging. It's daunting no matter how you look at it.
Correct. Well,
so I guess,
I think the situation that you and I find ourselves in, right, is that we're a little bit of a one-man band, as you
Yeah.
said, right? Like, yes, we are writers and creators. We're finding the talent, but we're also doing our own marketing. We're also doing our own sales. We're also doing our own scheduling when it comes to conventions and appearances, our own online e-commerce and fulfillment and those types
It
of
sounds
things.
like so much work, man. I don't want to do. I already want to take a break just hearing it.
I think it's my time. But no, it's such it can be a bit overwhelming, especially for people that are first coming in and when they've not necessarily done it before. And I feel very blessed that when I started off in the industry, I had two people that were working at DC Comics kind of take me under their wing. They got me a guest spot at a very, very tiny little regional convention over in the Chicagoland area. And that gave me the exposure when I self-published my first book to basically learn what I didn't know and do so in a way that was not going to be cost prohibitive for me. And those opportunities are very few and far between these days for creators. So again, when opportunities do arise to help that next generation tell their story, I always applaud it.
Yeah.
The thing that I think is interesting about kind of like my evolution too as a creator, and the thing that I'm noticing so much more about being in this business long term, is you really have to kind of like create you got to create opportunities for the people around you, and you got to not see the people around you as competition, but as people who are trying to do the same thing as you. And if you guys help each other out, a rising tide raises all ships. And especially that's the case here. I mean, you guys both have Kickstarters going right now, and here you guys are like, able to talk about everything. And obviously the other thing too is that there's no competition between it, because I don't think that there's any similarities between Battle Cats and Demon City. They're both very, very, very different books.
Well, let me tell you about the fantasy series that I'm about to launch that has anthropomorphic animals. No,
But even so, there's no reason why someone who wouldn't read your next book wouldn't be interested in reading Battle Cats as well. It's like, it's not like when we go to the comic shops, we only buy one superhero title and that's it. We're all reading books across the spectrum. And I think it's it's good to see that. I think if you're going to be in this industry for the long haul, it's better to have more friends than enemies,
Well, and it's about that community that you're talking about. And again, I would say part of the success that I had with Demon City, because I was not expecting this to get funded in the first week. Like, I was expected to have to fight tooth and nail for 30 days to try to get to this funding goal. I would say two things worked out really, really well for that. So one was kind of the inlaid fans that I already have and that I've acquired over the years. And then two is the comic community really rallying behind indie creators and indie publishers like Mark and Man Cave. And Mark, I'm sure you're nodding your head, so I assume you're kind of in a similar boat with some of the support that you've been seeing in there. And Henri, you've always been a huge champion for independent creators and independent publishers. So again, kudos to you and thank you. Yeah, I think that, to your point, right, that rising tide raises all ships, and it's that community that really helps to bolster and support each other, even just by doing something as simple as sharing the link, which costs you nothing but a second or two of your time. And that can be so indispensable for projects like ours in order to try to get in front of that right audience. Because even if it's not something that you necessarily are interested in, or it's not necessarily something that you can afford today, chances are somebody who will be interested in it and can afford it, and that share of that link can be such a huge benefit.
Correct. And believe it or not, I mean, we're all in the same boat. Even if it's Mad Cave, and we're talking about the publisher, but you guys are creators pushing your own work, trying to get your own work published. So again, for me, it's also admirable just to see that, and it speaks volumes of you two, especially, Henri, which the way that I met Henri was great, because again, I've never seen a guy really hustling the way that Henri does. And it was such a breath of fresh air just to see somebody so passionate about how he was defending his own work. And even it was like the second day that you just basically went to our booth and, hey, can you take a picture? And he had like all the boxes and they were like empty, and you were like, yeah, I did it. And we were like,
it wasn't the second day. It was that year it was cutting it close. I mean, that was a tough show. And you know what's interesting? So Mark, it was we were across from each other, and then across from us was Battle Quest Comics.
Yes.
It's interesting how those guys have made, to see how you guys have really grown over the years has been really like inspiring to me too. I appreciate what you're saying. But I actually had a question for you as I'm looking at your Kickstarter campaign. Since this is your first campaign,
yes,
what has your experience been? Because Kickstarter it's a different beast altogether. And I've had a lot of conversations with creators, and I've already done 2 campaigns this year, and I'm exhausted from it. It almost feels like every time you do a Kickstarter campaign, and this is me just speaking to everybody who's out there listening to this right now, it's the most soul draining experience, because for those days that you're out there, you are pushing in a way that you can't at like a convention. It's one thing to be at a convention and, like what Mark is saying, defend your work. It's like you guys were doing it, and it's very transactional, right? You meet people, you pitch them your books, they either buy or they don't, and you move on. This is a very different type of battle here, and you have people who come in, you have people who come out. How's the experience been for you, and what do you think what do you see for yourself in the future with it? Because I see a lot of publishers that are your size and bigger even, who are using Kickstarter is a platform for, doing even licensed books?
Sure. That's a great question, Henri. Thank you for asking that, because yes, I even got I've been in a few interviews, and they coincided with another project that I'm doing with Mad Cave, but it coincided with also with the Kickstarter. And a lot of people, they were just asking me, but why are publishers doing Kickstarter? Isn't the whole notion of Kickstarter just being like crowdfund people that doesn't have the means or the resources to actually get their book published? And it's absolutely true. I mean, that's the inception of Kickstarter, and that's how it was supposed to go about. But the thing is that as publishers, and as you were so eloquently putting it, Trevor, that we do try it as a publisher to analyze, different metrics or different markets. We as publishers, and we feel that we have a responsibility with our fans and with everybody, that we want everybody reading comics. We want everybody enjoying graphic storytelling. So going into Kickstarter, there are a lot of passionate, untapped potential and fans out there that actually do enjoy comics beyond what you were saying, Henri, that you go to a retailer and you are going to purchase a Batman or a Superman or Avengers. That's it. But there's a lot of other people just doing their own work, beautiful work, independent work with their own stories, their own heroes, their own traumas, adventures, you name it, that it's untapped potential. So going from a publisher standpoint, going into Kickstarter is trying to get more fans, as if we were into a convention, and that you're able to just to engage with a new customer or with different audiences and be like, hey, oh, so Mad Cave Studios, what is it? Okay, a comic book publisher. Oh, you guys are doing Battle Cats. Okay, what else is there? And they might go into Mad Cave and then find Trevor's book. Or they might find Dick Tracy or Flash Gordon or Gotchaman or all this other realm of opportunities. Open up before your eyes. So for us, it's just Kickstarted. It became such a magnificent force of fans out there that are craving for this type of material that you're not going to find at your regular Barnes & Noble or even at a convention.
Yeah.
And Mark, I imagine too that it's an opportunity for you guys to offer more than just the book, right? Because a lot of the stuff that you can put into a Kickstarter is additional merch and things like that may not necessarily be in a store all the time that fans can necessarily get their hands on.
100%. And that's the logic behind it. We want to keep on spreading the word. We want to have more eyes on everything that we do. But again, like everything we try to do at Mad Cave is like, you guys are telling your fan base, Henri, the guys that are listening, how hard is it to make a Kickstarter? Well, a lot of people might be like, oh, publishing, well, you guys have a publisher, so it might be, you guys are at another level, this is so different. No, we are actually understanding and feeling your pain. It's brutal. 30 days, if you wondering if you're gonna hit your mark, if it's really gonna get funded, it can be a very rewarding experience, or it can be a very soul crushing experience. And then where does morale go from a creator standpoint? Like, okay, I've been building this. I worked my ass off, sweat, blood, and literal tears, and nobody cares. That's brutal. But again, I've also seen, like everything in life, that when you put your name out there, like what you were saying, Trevor, you got funded, right away. It's because you've paid your dues. You have also demonstrated that you're somebody that people can trust, that you're going to deliver your product. That's another thing when publishers actually just put their books out there. Well, they know how to publish books, so they're not going to be, at the end of the day, what are the risks? Well, of course, there's always many risks. A recession, or I don't know, the paper from China, just like, a lot of things that can happen. where the books were coming on a boat, it sank, of course, all like that. But it's not going to be like a lot of people that actually go into a Kickstarter, and then when they start seeing the hidden fees, and then when they start seeing like, okay, how am I going to publish this book, or how am I going to do this? So it's a learning experience, but you know what? At the end of the day, it's also publishing at a different level and on another scale. So
it's a little bit direct to consumer, right? Because you have an opportunity to interact one-to-one with those backers. And that's one of the things that I really find rewarding about it, because yes, I can engage with my already built-in audience that I've had, because I've had the benefit of being able to be a creator for almost 20 years. And so I've built up a newsletter and an audience and online following and stuff. And it's humble. It's not huge, but it's there and they're engaged. And then it's the new fans, the new ones that you can find that either like it because they enjoyed the art or they enjoyed the title, they enjoyed the premise, and hopefully they will come along for the next adventure that you end up funding on there as well.
Exactly. And you guys are putting yourselves out there. And the way that I see it, I mean, you guys are a brand. Next time that I see a Trevor Henry on the cover of a book, I'm going to be like, oh, okay, that's something that I'm going to be into, because I mean, these guys know exactly what they're doing. So, but everything is just the grind, is the hustle, is continuous, little by little. It doesn't matter if it's Kickstarter, if it's your own project, or if you're in another level and you have a publisher and you're doing the same things. But going back to what you were saying, Trevor, I mean, same thing with the talent search. I mean, we want to give people that don't have a voice yet to shine. Put him out there. So we know from all levels. And again, this is comic books. This is graphic storytelling. This is what we love. And we want to share it with everybody that loves this stuff. And more people should be reading comics, by the way.
100%. I mean, again, that's one of the reasons why I started off using young readers comics and trying to hook them while they're young, right? I went to conventions which had a lot of families coming to them, and there were not a lot of things for those kids to read. They could get art. They could sometimes get some plushies, which there's a lot more of those types of tchotchkes and merchandise available now. But at the time, there wasn't a lot. And outside of like the occasional licensed book of like Avatar: The Last Airbender or something like that, there wasn't anything for these kids to get. And that might even be too old for certain readers that were out there. And now I think you've got a handful of creators that are very much catering to that very young audience. And I'm just trying to, like, add myself into that fray a little bit, and then offer a little bit of diversity on the table, because the challenge I ran into is we worked on Albert the Alien for 6 years. So kids who started with us when they were 10 came up to me when they were 16 and said, "What do you got for me now? I've aged out." And I didn't have anything. And so suddenly I found myself in this unique position of, okay, I got to start writing some books that are for teens and for grownups, because these kids want something different than what I have today. And what, like Mark said, right? Listening to your audience to understand what it is that they're looking for became this driving force for me as well as a creator. And that ultimately kind of led me down this road to Demon City, which was the COVID baby. Like, I worked on this during COVID with my team and just sat on it for 2 years because it's so much effort to do the Kickstarter. If I can be vulnerable with you guys for a moment, like, I was a little trigger shy. And it wasn't until I did a Zoop campaign earlier this summer where Zoop was doing a lot of the heavy lifting when it came to finding the printer, to the fulfillment, to hooking me up with podcasts for interviews and a lot of the promotional stuff. Like, that gave me the confidence again to be like, okay, no, I do remember how this is. The muscle memory is engaged again. I do feel like I can do this again a couple months later. Hence why we pulled the trigger.
And I just want to say, Trevor, the coloring in Demon City is really fantastic. It reminds me very much of like the ongoing Batman colors right now. It's just really, you picked the really good colors for this book.
Shan is amazing. Mark, I highly encourage you to hire Shan, but don't steal them from me, because I need Shan for book 2. But Shan is amazing, and very, very easy to work with.
I'm already taking notes, sir. So good.
All right. So in the comments section, we have John Castle here. He does Castle's Corner for the Experience, where he does a lot of rapid fire reviews, and he has reviewed a ton of Mad Cave books. And he has a couple questions for you, Mark. So the first one is, did you guys know that Dick Tracy was going to be a huge hit?
Yes. I'm sorry. No, I'm not gonna play it down. But the answer, yes. I mean, first of all, I've loved Dick Tracy forever. And I think that is such a powerful property. And when we first sat down with Alex Aguria and Michael Moretti, and they showed us what they've been working on, what they were actually going to do with the property, we were just blown away. We were like, oh my God, this is your Batman year one, but basically, I mean, for Dick Tracy. So yes, I mean, of the licensed products that we have, that we go after, I think that they really resonate with the audience, and that's something that we stand by. And Dick Tracy was one of those things that I was like, this has so much magic behind it that it is going to be hard not to knock it out of the park.
Michael Moretti, that's another guy who's like right from our neck of the woods.
Yes.
Michael and I worked on a educational nonprofit together, Reading with Pictures.
Oh,
And I
okay.
think that might be his first published work was actually in that book, which was my first published work as well.
That's
Well,
interesting.
yeah.
See, it all
Yeah,
comes
he's a great
full,
guy.
all comes full circle. So John has a second question, and his second question is: are you guys doing something different this year than before? Because so far, you guys are definitely the #1 publisher.
Well, thank you, John. So kind of you to say that. We are just going to continue just bringing great content out. And yeah, we have a few surprises here and there. Unfortunately, I can't divulge those plans here, but keep your eyes peeled for what Mad Cave is doing. But we just we want to keep on raising the bar and again, publishing great content, working with talent out there. I mean, we're working with the best. That's what we're going to be doing moving forward. So keep your eyes peeled for more Mad Cave.
Now, Trevor, I have a question for you. So every time a campaign funds, there's two goals. There's the primary goal of, hey, this is what I need to hit to fund and be able to actually make this happen. But then there is the real goal, which is, making a profit and making that happen before you go to press. Because after Kickstarter takes their fees, after you pay all your printing costs, after you do shipping and fulfillment, you're left with pretty much nothing but a bunch of books, which is where you make your money usually. So obviously we're there, but you're funded already. So
Yes.
and you and I have spoken before because we were talking about your campaign before you hit that launch button. Do you want to share a little bit about like where you're trying to go now? Because I personally think like people should know about where you're going from here now that you're funded.
Yeah, so right now it's trying to unlock stretch goals, and honestly, the campaign is paying for the printing, right? Like I paid my artist, my colorist, my letterer all out of pocket. I did that years ago. So the book is done and made, and all that money came out of my pockets in order to make that happen. So I have kind of a P&L statement that I use. It allows me to kind of calculate what I call a break-even point, right? It's how many units at this price tag do I need to sell before I start to make money again. Having a crowdfunding campaign help pay for the printing means I don't have to add to that number, which is fantastic. It helps me with my projections. And then knowing how many average books I can sell at a convention and how many conventions I do within a given year allows me to figure out, okay, it'll take me 6 months to a year to pay off this book, and then I can start making profit again. The other thing that will be, I think, interesting for me as well that I don't think a lot of independent creators necessarily think about, but Mark, you're going to laugh at this, is inventory control. Because I'm a one-man band. I already have a literal ton of Albert the Alien in my basement, in my crawl space, right? And I'm about to receive 2,000 pounds of Los Ojos when that comes over to me in like November, December. And then I'm about to receive another 2,000 pounds of Demon City when that ships over here, whenever the printer gets done with it, tentatively January-ish, depending, assuming no holiday delays or anything like that. So where we go from here, right, is one, making sure that fulfillment gets done first and foremost, right? So any of the digital rewards go out the week that we end up funding, possibly the next week because it's my birthday. So apologies. I might take a little bit of time off. But if you can give me an extra week, I would appreciate it. But so trying to make sure those digital rewards go out like as soon as quickly as possible. Keeping people apprised of what the status is of the of the printing, because that takes about 3 to 4 months because we are printing overseas. And while the printing doesn't take a lot of time, shipping it over here on a boat does. That takes about a week or two. And then getting it through customs can take a very, very long time. Sometimes I've seen that as long as 2 to 3 weeks. There was actually one project I did where it was like 6 weeks. But at the time, there was a lot of confusion at the ports. So I'm hoping that would not repeat this year. But so, and then getting those books out as soon as they're in, right? And we put an assembly line together over on the kitchen table, and we've got empty envelopes and books at one end, and we've got a printer to print out everyone's address at the other, and we're just basically creating a conveyor belt of fulfillment. And that's where we're at. And then I start moving books down into my basement and my crawl space. That tells me how much space I need to make.
But that's what's great, right? Is like now you can go and you can take those books with you to conventions and you have stuff to sell, and it's like, and it's going to last you a while, and it works out in that regard.
I intentionally overprint so that way there are extra copies that I can bring to conventions for me. With the Zoop campaign for Los Ojos, we did do an exclusive for Zoop, and I slightly overprinted on those just in case anything got damaged or misprinted or anything. So that way I make sure that people who backed the campaign only get the quality ones, and then anything that gets damaged, like I'll donate that or discount it or something at my table. But yeah, there's a couple extra copies I get so I can bring them to events and sell them.
So Trevor, you got a question now from Eddie V. How do you come up with ideas for stretch goals? Is it stuff that you think about ahead of time, or is it researching what type of stretch goals seem to be more popular on Kickstarter? It's a great question.
That's a great question.
The fantastic question. So yes and no. So with Demon City, I tried to take a little bit of a bare bones approach, and it was really just focused on the story and the art. And part of that was because we had completed the story so long ago. Again, it's been done for about 2 years. I didn't necessarily want to re-engage my art team and stuff to start making a bunch of stickers or pins or posters or those types of things. I did reach out to a couple of artist friends of mine, like John Bivens, Robert Carey, and Ben Templesmith, and they agreed to do poster prints for us. So we're doing like a set of 3 6x9s that you can get, one from each of those artists, for anyone who physically backs the thing. And I like their art. I thought that they did a really good job with the characters, and I thought that as a $10 add-on, like that was something that I personally would be interested in kind of having on there. Whenever I see offerings of like stickers or pillowcases or those things, those don't necessarily catch my eye, but things that's more art or more story, or to Mark's point, right, a lot of the world building and back matter material that goes into a book, that fascinates me, because I'm the kind of person who likes a director's commentary or a good featurette on a movie. So why wouldn't I want something similar when it comes to the actual book itself? And that's why we've even got like a digital deluxe edition for Demon City, where you can get a copy of the script for the whole thing, all the character designs, all the original notes that Marco and I were putting back and forth, so you can start to see a little bit of that process that we had and that back and forth that we had while we were putting the book together, for people who want it. Otherwise, you can just get the bare bones book either in digital or print, and it will make your shelves look pretty, which is fantastic. But it's honestly something that I'm debating with, because I do see that there are a lot of Kickstarter backers who do like more than just kind of the bare bones book offering. Sometimes they are into stickers or pins or posters or those types of things. And I just need to research it a little bit more to see where that might be a good fit for a future project of mine. With this one, I wanted to pull the trigger a little bit before I had time to really do the due diligence on that research. And that's why we've got a little bit more focused offerings on this one, which is really on story.
That's excellent.
Awesome.
So, Mark, I kind of want to take this over to you now, because, and before we go into any more questions, I just want to let you guys know, I back both of your campaigns right now at the digital level, of course. I went in at the digital level. I wish it could have been more, because I really want those physical copies, like, for Trevor, from both you and Mark, you especially have this gorgeous omnibus collectible set. But the thing about it is, sometimes you just can't afford these things because they're expensive. And I'm speaking to everybody out there who may not have a budget right now. But when you back at the digital level, that is straight money into the creators' pockets. There's no fulfillment that needs to be taken care of other than them sending you the files. Everybody wins in this case. You get the content, and they get your money so that they can go use it to make other stuff happen. Pay creators, pay for printing, do all that stuff. So don't feel intimidated. Don't look at these campaigns and say, man, I can't spend $100 on this omnibus set. You should. It's your money's going, a very long way here, especially with the soundtrack and all these other awesome goodies that Mark has incentivized. But if you just come in at the digital level, you are helping these creators. And Mark, you are getting really close, man. I mean, like, you are not far at all. I have absolutely no doubts that you're going to fund. I mean, you're $700 away. All you need is 7 people to come in and pick up these omnibuses, and you're in, I'm in
the clear. Yeah,
you're in the clear, and you're going to do it. You got 7 days left. It's like, I have
that's a person a day. That's a person. Yeah.
Thank you, guys.
Yeah. Well, so I guess my question to you is, I guess it's kind of the same question I had for Trevor. Like, Trevor's hit his goal, but like, what are you doing with the money that you're using to raise this? Because it's a little bit different in your case, because you are the publisher. Like, if you wanted to, you could just put this out, but you've chosen to come to Kickstarter. So, what are your plans with this, and why Kickstarter?
Well, you're absolutely right. I mean, when you sometimes, just put a product like this and you're a publisher, it's not, you're not doing it it's not about the money. It's really not. It's basically just sharing, your product with a different fan base, a fan base that hopefully can become Mad Cave loyalists or Paper Cuts or Maverick or Nakama next year. I mean, that's really what you're going after. But to be honest, it's, even if we get this funded or we can get into those extra levels, we are going to be doing something eventually, and you beat me to it, Henri, that it's like we're going to give away a few of the omnibuses just for free. Yeah, we're definitely, again, we want to spread the word. We definitely want to do, because you're absolutely right. You cannot expect, just to go out, and especially when an unknown product like Battle Cats, even as a creator, I'm super proud, and it's my firstborn and all that stuff, and I will defend it to the day I die.
Yeah.
But still, but I can't expect people, just to be like, okay, here you go, sir, $100 just for the hell of it. Because this looks super pretty. You're absolutely right. But again, a lot of that money, if we get funded, it's gonna allow us to do some of free giveaways moving forward at either a convention level or doing some things with social media. Or next time, expect an email from me, Andre, and be like, hey, you want to do a Battle Cats Omnibus giveaway and see, who lands this? Again, we do want to spread the word. Again, as Trevor was saying it, as publishers, sometimes I'm worried about other different things. For us, it's more about exposure. Same as you guys. You want more people, more eyes on your Kickstarter, more eyes on your product, more eyes on the brand at the end of the day. So we want this to actually reach as many people as possible. It's not about the money. It's really putting your work into other people's hands, and hopefully, they're going to enjoy it, and they're going to see that you really put a lot of thought and care and love into this stuff.
And what's great is that this is what you chose to do it with. Like, again, you have all these brands, and a lot of other publishers are, like, for example, Image, they're doing a Kickstarter for G.I. Joe, and it's one of the highest. And I'm sure if you guys would have done that with one of your licensed properties, it could have been, you could have had a much more lucrative, introduction to Kickstarter. But you started back with your roots, the thing that got you to where you are, which is a testament of the type of publisher you are, and that's really great. So, and I love so much. I love how, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
no.
What I love so much is how organic your Kickstarter is. Because it, I see success already with it. Like, first off, we already know it's going to get funded. When you're this close, it's like one thing when you're like $3,000 or $4,000 away and you have 7 days to go. Like, you might start, biting your nails a little bit, or like, really showing some sort of like, desperation. But everything has just been so steady, and like, that to me has always been the sign of a successful campaign, is when you just see things kind of steadily coming up. Have you experienced the middle lulls with this campaign? Because it seems like it's just been gradually up,
Yeah, the first day, I think that during the announcement, the first day, I think that we hit like 50%, and then it basically just like dunk, it hit a wall, and we were like, okay, what's up with this? But again, what you were saying, and look, it's great that you're asking me, like, okay, it's or that you're commemorating the fact that we started with Battle Cats, because as Trevor was saying, and you were saying, Andre, is like, this is our first Kickstarter. And at Mad Cave, we also like to try to see a lot of the different things out there and just test the waters. And that's the reason why Mad Cave, at least for the first 5-6 years, we were not taking creator-owned content to publish, because I was like, I know how hard Trevor has worked on his books. I know how hard you worked on your books, Henri. And for me, not figuring out, starting as an indie publisher at Mad Cave and taking your babies and be like, don't worry about it. I know exactly what I'm doing. This is going to be a success. I didn't feel comfortable. until we actually learned how to, okay, we know the pitfalls. We actually learned how the sausage is made, literally, and be like, okay, now with Kickstarter, it would have been a disservice if you would take like, okay, let's do a Dick Tracy Kickstarter. Sure, you might be able to just like land on your feet a little bit better, or a Gotchaman or a Flash Gordon, but let's do it with Battle Cats, because again, Battle Cats, it's what started the company. And if we're gonna fail, or if we're gonna have to learn a difficult lesson somewhere, okay, it will be on us. It's not gonna be on the shoulders on somebody else's product. So it would have been a disservice to start with either an Henri product or a Trevor product or a licensed product and be like, okay, oof, you know what? We fell flat on our faces. We're gonna take it in the chin if it's necessary. So that's also the reason why we decided to start with Battle Cats. And again, it played well with the whole like 10-year anniversary, our first book that actually made the publisher happen. So that's what we kind of did what we did.
That's fantastic.
I think it also gives you a good baseline, Mark, too, to understand like where the support is on that platform. Because if you had launched with like a Dick Tracy or something like that, you don't know how much of that is people supporting Mad Cave versus how many of those people are just supporting Dick Tracy. And then when you're trying to launch the next one, which may or may not be a licensed product, right? You're like, we still don't know what our baseline will be. And now I feel like you've got that, right? Because you understand with that first product that's had that legacy audience out there, or those people who want to either get it again or get it for the first time, and they're supporting you, they're not supporting a property.
100%, Trevor. And of course, it's like sometimes, I mean, trying to put those things into perspective and layers, I mean, from what is around. I mean, Andre was mentioning, I mean, the G.I. Joe Kickstarter, I mean, $3 million. But then you see a Power Rangers and it's, okay, $500,000. But then you see like, okay, a Battle Cats, I mean, struggling, I mean, just to get to the $10,000 line. But it's not about, again, for us, it's not about the money at the end of the day. Sure, like, okay, we all love it.
It really isn't. I actually think it's so much more admirable that you guys are doing it with one of your things, because, of course, that's recognized brands. And in all honesty, you know, like, you can even ask yourself what they're even doing on Kickstarter in the first place. And I've had numerous conversations with people in the industry about it. I mean, I'm glad that it's actually that more known brands are coming to Kickstarter, because overall it brings more people to Kickstarter. So it's like, you look at, you know, Berserker, for example. You know, it's like, did Boom Studios need to go to Kickstarter for that? Absolutely not. They could have easily published it themselves, and they would have been just as successful. But the fact that they did do it brought more people onto the platform. It got more people 100%. To, you know, create user names and profiles on Kickstarter, and that now circulates into other projects. We have, speaking of that, we actually have another question from Eddie here. So Eddie asks, if I like your work and want to help but can't fully back a project for some reason, like, for example, he can't see black and white, which he can't. Eddie's been a buyer of mine for a long time, and he is strictly color. He cannot do black and white. Is donating $1 or $2 in the pledge without an award section okay, or is that offensive to you as creators?
No,
100% okay.
Yeah, I mean, that's, again, every support, whether it's $1, $1,000, $100, whatever. I mean, it's the support that counts. It's really the support, and you're putting yourself out there. You're putting a product and seeing people support, even if it's the digital version or your highest perks or your highest tiers. I mean, everything. It's there's no better reward for an entertainer than the applause of the public. So it basically is that when you guys support us, either with $1 or whatever, it's again humbling and grateful, and I think that Trevor feels the same way.
Yeah, 100%. And again, even just something as simple as sharing a link and tagging us on social media is a huge help on there as well. You know, Henri kind of alluded to it at the beginning of the call. Like, I'm doing this full time, and that's not entirely by choice. You know, this is how I'm making my bread and butter these days. And that is a very difficult thing to do, and it puts you in a very different perspective when you don't have that steady corporate paycheck that's coming in on a regular basis. And so any and all support that you can get is super, super helpful. And I also recognize on the other side of that, right? Like, there's a whole bunch of Kickstarters out there that I want to help support, but I might not necessarily be able to afford to get every single one of them at the physical tier that I want. but I can support a lot of them at, $3, $5, $10, something like that, where it's a little bit more sustainable for me as an income. And it allows me to spread that wealth around a little bit more and still give a little bit of support to that community. So 100%, a buck or two is a huge help. We always really appreciate it. And again, sharing that link too, which costs nothing, is also a huge help. So very much appreciate it.
And that's exactly, I'm glad Eddie asked that, because it was like the same thing for me. Like, I know you guys personally, and I want to support you guys with physical books. I remember buying Battle Cats #1 from you, Mark, at Wonder. And but here's the thing, I'm human, we're all human, we got bills to pay. And like Trevor was saying, like, he's going at this full time. This is a hard business to make your full-time job, right? I've been doing it for 15 years, and you have to learn how to handle the stress of it, because there's a lot of things there's just so many unknown variables. Mark, I'm sure you know all about it. And when you get into these unknown variables, you have to find ways to navigate through it. And sometimes you're just not in a position to be able to give what you want to give. We all want to support each other. We all want to see each other succeed. But, doing something is always, always, always better than doing nothing at all. So, Eddie, I think that was a great question. And, obviously your $1 or $2 is solidified versus a big backer who might come in at $300 and then 24 hours before the campaign just decides to, jump out. And that's actually happened to me before.
Yeah.
It went from being fully funded to back under because someone just backed out, and I had to contact that person and offer them all kinds of incentives to get them to come back. Unfortunately, they did, but do I really want a backer like that? At the end of the day, I mean, yes, I want the money, but you want somebody who's going to be there for you through thick and thin. And if today you put in $1 or $2, maybe next time you'll be in a better financial spot at that time, and you'll be familiar with the work, and you'll put more money into it. So there's all that to be said.
100%. There are campaigns out there that will put thank you pages together for people who donate any amount of money that's on there, either in the digital version or the physical version. And again, I think they don't just do that because they want to. They do that because I think it's showing their appreciation that any amount of money is a huge, huge help.
And it's a way for you to get a pro badge at San Diego Comic-Con. You help make something happen, so you could say that you were involved in a comic project. And it's true, though. I mean, it's like you are part of that. You're making it happen. So, it's like this is being patrons are what or how artwork used to get made, So
well, and those fans are the ones that also help to support you when it comes to nominations for awards, when it's fan submissions and things like that too, like the Ringos, right? They've got the whole fan submission side of things on there. And so having that community, again, I'll keep coming back to that word community. Having that community and that inlaid support from those people doesn't just stop at the campaign. Again, sharing it, getting more attention on it, getting more eyeballs on it is such a huge help, not just now when it comes to the campaign, but also later when it comes to award season, because I want that Ringo.
Yes.
So Eddie says, I appreciate knowing that, because he was afraid it was insulting, like a penny tip at a restaurant, didn't want to offend anyone. So he's thanking you guys for your honesty, and now he doesn't have to feel awkward. You never do, Eddie. I mean, Eddie's a big supporter of independent comics, and he used to come on my shows and he would just buy so much independent comics. I had to go out of my way to try and find more independent comics because I just couldn't hold on to them for long enough. So as we're winding down, we got about 3 minutes left on the show, and we got 2 guests. So I want to kind of give you guys a chance to kind of wrap up your thoughts and maybe say one more thing to everybody. And just keep in mind that even though right now you guys may not be seeing a lot of action on your campaigns, that, people are going to come to this because this is a pretty big interview and this is going to circulate, so I want to give you guys a chance to both say, your part. So Trevor, why don't we start with you, man?
Yeah. So again, I have the benefit of being funded right now, so the pressure is not as high as it normally is, which is wonderful. Now it's just about trying to hit those stretch goals to make sure that we can, pack this with as many rewards as we possibly can and really maximize the value that backers are going to get out of this, either for the digital or the physical versions. of the book. Again, it also helps me out tremendously when it comes to paying for the printing of the book, which is wonderful. And it also gives me an indication too on, how much demand there will potentially be for a sequel down the road, right? Is that something that I need to be engaging my team with and getting on their schedules for, to make sure that we're doing those things. But the thing I want to leave everyone with is, again, just a very humble thank you, because the community that we got rallied around this, the support that I got from my fan base, the support from other creators, Henri, like you, bringing me on your show, because I am in the doldrums. I'm in week 2, and so this is the quiet time when things are not as exciting and can be a little bit more stressful for the creators on there. That type of support, again, not just the financial support, but the support of the attention and the sharing and the linking and those things, is so incredibly helpful, not just from that financial perspective, but just from a mental health perspective when it comes to the creators, and making us think that we're not just shouting out into the void when we're posting our social media links or making our promotions out there, because it can feel like that a lot. You can feel like you're putting a lot out there and not necessarily getting a lot back. So my final words would just be a very humble thank you to everyone that is listening.
I appreciate that, Trevor. All right, Mark, take it away.
It's been a humbling experience. We've never done a Kickstarter. You guys are pros at this. We were just but I mean, it's been our first rodeo, and as you know, I mean, we encountered like a lot of pitfalls and a lot of realities here and there. But I think, as Trevor was saying, I mean, it's all about engaging with the community. It's all about engaging with the community, the support. Like, yes, I mean, you guys are, thank you for saying that we're going to get funded. But for me, I mean, just putting Battle Cats out there the way that it was meant, it's a huge win for the company, for myself as a creator, because we managed to do something. And hopefully, I mean, a lot of eyes have been putting like their attention on what we've been doing. And hopefully, I mean, that also pulls that fan or that curious person, I mean, to Mad Cave, and they will discover other things or imprints. So for me, I mean, it has been a humbling experience, a great experience. And hopefully moving forward, I mean, since we've learned a couple of things here and there, probably we can offer other cool projects through Kickstarter in the near future.
I have no doubt about that. Gentlemen, thank you so very much. I appreciate you both taking time out of your very busy schedules to be here with us today. We are now ending our episode here, but stick around, guys, because we got Comic Collectibles coming up. Mark, Trevor, best of luck to you guys.
Thank you, Henri. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Take care, Trevor.
Did you know that Arthur, King of the Britons in Monty Python and the Holy Grail was played by a famous Graham? Check out another famous Graham by following our Instagram.